It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielsen, Matt Cassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
It is Monday. What is up, everybody? Thank you very much for joining us for another episode of Two Guys and a Goalie. Cass, Gage, and Nielsen back with you once again. Episode 255 of Two Guys and a Goalie, which means if you're not yet subscribed to the podcast, what the hell are you doing? Give us a sub. Two Guys and a Goalie. Search it on all of your podcasting platforms. If you do see some smiles on our faces, because Gager just introduced us to his new little puppy, and I have to say, Gager, I know you said he's going to be a giant one day. That puppy's cute as hell right now, man.
It's a living teddy bear, Dusty, this thing. So as I was telling you this the story, my wife and daughter said they were going to go look for at dogs. I was actually sitting in my office and there's windows, and I saw my daughter out of the corner of my run past me because she was carrying it when they came back. And then I heard the oh, and I go, no. And then I walked out, and there he was. So new.
But now
Bernie's
he owns
Mountain
you,
Dog.
doesn't he?
Oh God, it's a joke, man. So everyone probably remembers I lost my Bernie's last year around this time, and so it was an emotional weekend. Remembering him, the new addition. The cool thing. Like, dogs are such special things. Like I don't know how you fall in love unconditionally so fast. Like, it's stupid. And
kind of how I felt about
it's
you,
nice
Gager.
that my kids are a little bit older. yeah. Thanks, buddy.
You do have some puppy tendencies, so it is great.
It's great that they're a little bit older and a little bit more engaged with them than they were before. So there's a lot of love. He hates the kennel, though. I got to do something here, but so far so good.
Cass, you have a dog too, hey?
An old Maximus, old black lab. So he's been
Named after
around.
the movie Gladiator.
Named after the movie.
I like that. That's good.
We got him when we first got married. My first year I guess it was my second year in Ottawa. So our first year living together, first year of marriage. So he's he's the only other boy in the house because I got the three girls and then my wife, and he's 100% my wife's dog. Like he's hers through and through. I mean, he just follows her around everywhere, and he's had health issues ever since he was a pup. So it's like he's been holding on by a string for 9 years now. Not in a way like where it's like he's suffering. He's happy, very happy, but he's had a really good run. So he's probably getting close to the end here, which will be pretty tough. My wife will have a pretty hard time, and so will I with that. He's our buddy boy, as we call him, and all the kids call him Buddy Boy. But he's a good pup. So it's pretty awesome, Gager. That's gonna be a big old dog.
Oh yeah, the paws on him already. And I was looking at old pictures of my old dog, and I think he's a little bit bigger than he was.
Oh boy.
And he likes to cuddle, so it's going to be a 120-pound lap dog.
That's great. Man, I grew up on a farm, right? So I was 15, so we had cattle dogs, usually 2 or 3 at the same time, and
you just didn't care about them, probably.
Yeah.
We did
farm dogs. You didn't even. You're just
lived
like whatever.
outside. Like they were farm dogs that lived outside. One of them during my time really clicked with me. He was great. I think we had him for about 5 or 6 years. And then we were out chasing cows one day. We were helping the neighbors find one of their bulls that kind of got away. And he had a long day. And we came back home, and the neighbor girl was like pestering him and bothering him. And I'm inside playing video games, and I hear her start crying, and he bit her right here. We had to take him in and put him down. She obviously the mom made a big stink of it. And my dad and I drove him in to put him, and it was the worst because he was a great dog. Had one pissed off moment. That pissed me off. So I really haven't been able to connect with the dog since then. I know my wife's a big cat girl, and we had a cat. I remember first date I went on was over at her house, and I saw this orange tabby come around the corner. I was like, no, please tell me that's not her cat. And it was her cat. We had him forever. And we don't have a pet right now. And I don't think I'd ever want another cat. I mean, the puppy thing. God, it'd be nice.
I'll
to
bring
have a
him
puppy
by,
for a while.
Dusty.
Yeah,
I'll bring.
don't.
I should just bring him by.
No.
Oh,
no.
it'll be
You
2
can
minutes.
stand at the door for an hour banging, and my kids would be like, "What's going on?" I was like, "No, we're not looking. We're not looking right now. It's the last thing we need at this point." But I'd like to get a dog maybe at some point. All right. Anyway, lots of good pet talk. Gage, your puppy Boone. Boone again. Boone.
Boone.
All right.
Yeah.
Boone looks like an absolute beauty. All right. Edmonton Oilers preseason action last night. I'm not gonna lie. Not overly stoked about watching preseason games streaming online for the next 2.5 weeks, but you got to do what you got to do. I watched a good chunk of the game last night, rewatched all the highlights as well. Cash, you were on the pregame show last night. We'll get into that a bit. Gager, what'd you think of the game last night, man?
Well, it was an intermittent watching at best with the football games going on, Dusty.
Yeah.
The one thing good, it was on center ice, so I got off my the streaming, and on center ice it looked a little bit better. I think it's free for now, whatever. But the thing that obviously everyone's been talking about it so far, I just found Stuart Skinner to be such a breath of fresh air in nets. Like, got to meet the guy up in Lloydminster, shook his hand, so obviously he's got the golden touch now. But man, he was just solid. Like, no panic in there. There was one kind of scrambly save where he was still in pretty good position to make the save. It was a different feeling of a guy in net. I mean, I was watching him more intently, and I just I was quite relaxed watching him play. You know, there wasn't any stressful moments at all. It looked really good. Yeah, that's kind of what I took. Of course, Holloway looked really good. But it's preseason, right? You've got a handful of NHLers in there. Things are going to ramp up as we go along in the preseason here, obviously. But hey, 4-0, awesome start for the Oilers.
Quick follow up, just quickly on Skinner there. What is it that you like most about his game, Gager?
Just his positioning and giving himself the best chance to stop the puck. There was one. What I thought his best save of the night was in the first period, where he battled through a screen and caught the puck on the other side, and it was because he had taken back his ice so much and was looking over the other shoulder and still was able to go through the screen and find the puck and grab it and get to the top of the crease with guys battling in front. I thought that was really impressive to me. I was like, whoa. Wow, Stewie, that's a really good save. That's a really good sign going in. And yeah, I was pumped to watch it. I won't lie to you. I was pumped to see him play, and I was impressed. Very, very good, solid game.
Cass, what about you and your preseason consuming yesterday?
Yeah, I got two things. I mean, well, Skinner, you touched on that, so I don't need to cover that. I'll just extrapolate a little bit on the Holloway comment. He was the Oilers' best player, I thought, on the ice. And I know it's not against purely NHL competition. It's not like Winnipeg had an all-star lineup out there, but he looked really, really good, which is I think important for the Oilers, not just for this year, but for the future. And that if he can coming off a wrist injury where he didn't really get an NHL look last year. And even I think, cause he just played one, didn't he? Wasn't it just one game? And
late playoff, game 5, right? Against Colorado.
Yeah. And he didn't play very much. So we didn't really get to see him. So first time really getting to watch like a full game with him in it. And then he looked really good, offensively, defensively, like he looked sound there. And if he's a guy that can step in and actually play some minutes for you, and if he's a guy that all of a sudden, you can play with some of your top guys at times up and down the lineup, like that's a pretty big thing for the team. So that's point number one. Point number two, and I loved the guy last year. I love him now, and I think he's everything the Edmonton Oilers need on defense right now. If he can be stable, is Markus Niemelainen.
You like Niemelainen, eh?
Yeah.
I love him.
Wow.
Love him, guys. I love him. Like he to me is such a wild card out there, and not in a bad way. What I mean by that is like he forces other teams to keep their heads up. Like, how many guys in the league, not just for Edmonton, but in the league, do we see that just take those kind of runs at guys and that throw those types of hip checks and just you always have to be aware when they're out there because they're going to try to absolutely run you over. Like there's not a lot of
those
guys,
man.
No, there's barely any of them. And, he's big, he's strong. And the Oilers just don't have that. Like Zach Kassian, gone. Evander Kane plays a physical game, yes, but he's a top 6 guy that you want on the ice. Darnell Nurse can play and does play a physical game, but you want him on the ice. He's going to be against other teams' skill players. You don't need him just running around. And he's a better player, Darnell Nurse, when he's not just trying to run to hit people. That's what we saw his first year or two pro, and he's grown a lot in that he picks his spots when to do that and when not to do that. And aside from that, they don't have anyone. Like, who's a crazy, difficult net front presence that's going to cross-check guys, it's going to slash guys, it's going to take runs at guys. They just don't have that. And so I just, I knew going into it that I was going to be happy to watch him play, but I just love this kid. Like, if he can stay consistent in the defensive zone and play simple and just good first passes, all he has to do is just get the puck to his forwards. Just get the puck to your forwards and then keep running people. Hold the blue line like he does. Like, I love it. It's such a great element to the team. And if you look, and I said this on the pregame show, but if you look even at Colorado, like the trades they made at the deadline to try to bolster their defense, to add some more physicality, it's important in the playoffs. He's a big body. He's reachy. He's physical. I love this kid. I absolutely love him. Dinosaur, you can call me whatever. It's not like he has to go fight, but just the physicality that he brings is fantastic. So I know I'm getting all hyped about it.
I haven't seen you this flustered and excited over a player in a really long time, Cass.
Well, because it's just, to me, it's just like, again, like how many guys in the league can do this?
Yeah, they
do
they
this
could
on a
use
regular
a guy
basis.
Like him.
Oh, absolutely. And so if he's ready, like I and even if he's a guy that's in and out of your lineup, and obviously I want him to continue to develop. So if he's not going to play, he shouldn't be here. But if you can find a way, or if he's a guy that can step into that, that third pairing, like, I don't know, or be your.
Well, Jay Woodcroft
your
doesn't
6-7.
hesitate to roll 11 and 7, buddy. I mean, that's a
true
different
as well.
style of defenseman to throw out there every once in a while to keep teams honest coming down the ice, right? So, yeah,
I love it, guys.
Last year, like, I think all of us were thinking, okay, this is a good chance to see Broberg, right, with all the injuries. And then Niemelainen gets there, and all of a sudden, Broberg got sent back down, and they couldn't take him out of a lot had to do with injuries, obviously. But this guy, I mean, he reminds me of, I mean, this is just recent memory, but playing against the hard, like almost like Trouba. It'd be fun to go through the league and see the guys that are evil to play against, and he crushed that kid on the boards coming down the wing there, and he wasn't expecting it. Like the timing that he has to make those hits, and they're punishing too. Like he's trying to touch his shoulder to the boards through their chest. Like it's impressive. And
what'll be interesting if he does play a lot, Gagers, as guys learn his tendencies, like they're going to be aware of it, especially the more he's around, because he's still a relative unknown. Like, it's not like guys are going to be watching a ton of tape and being like, oh, hey, you got a heads up for this guy. So there's still, and I always found this too, just even for myself on the fighting side of it, where it's like the first time you step into a new league, like whether it's the AHL or the NHL, guys may not know you as much. Yeah. And so for me, even from a fighting standpoint, guys would be way more open early on. Like your first year and a half, like where they're, you surprise some people where they're not really prepared, and then all of a sudden the reputation gets around and guys are a little bit more defensive, or they prepare differently, and it'll be interesting for him if he starts to play more and more, like how people try to adjust their game to him. But as you said, Gager, the challenging thing with adjusting to a guy like that is his timing is so good on those hits, like where he does a really good job of moving laterally on them and with great timing. So I don't know, he excites me. He makes it fun to watch a game, because it's just that unpredictability. Might run somebody over. Like, it's just awesome. I love it.
Well, we're gonna get to see more of him. He'd be a guy who would play quite a bit in the preseason, right? This is what
he's gonna play probably every game. He's going to play every
more
game.
games. They're going to try to get him in there quite a bit. They got the back-to-backs here. tonight. They'll play Seattle tonight as well. But we were going to get to it on Thursday, but I had some technical difficulties with this computer here, so we didn't get to dive into it. But the Oilers training camp line combinations, they rolled out with McDavid, Kane, and Yamamoto, Draisaitl with Hyman on the left, Puljujarvi on the right, and then Nuge, McLeod, and Fogle as the third line. Obviously, Dylan Holloway might have something to say about all of this when it's all said and done in training camp. But Cass, let's start with you on this one, man. Anything jump off the page for you at the first look at the 9 to start camp?
Your boy JP playing up top there, and he's gonna get a look at it. Now, what's interesting to me about this is we know that he's trade bait right now, and I wonder if him starting off in this position is to make him seem more enticing. You know, if he's able to have a good preseason, if he's playing well, his value might go up a little bit. And that just to me is I don't know, that was the interesting thing for me with it. You know, Holloway, if he plays well, I think we're going to see a little bit of movement in those lines. If Holloway's ready to step into a third line role, you know, could you slide Nuge up and slide Draisaitl up and keep that overpowered line, and then have Holloway step into a position where he's going to be able to play a lot? Like, I don't know, it gives you some flexibility and some options. But the biggest thing for me jumping off the page was Puljujarvi, and I think that it's just trying to showcase him a little bit, as we would say.
Gager, what do you think from that top 9? I mean, it's the 9 guys that you expected, maybe just in a little bit of different spots than maybe you expected.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of moving parts in there, and depending how guys are going and things like that. I wouldn't be putting anything in stone right now, Dusty. Just have a look and see if there's a little bit more chemistry than say with another grouping. But yeah, it's Holloway's. I try. I mean, it's preseason and he hasn't played a lot, and he's pumped. It's his first camp and he's playing really well. I don't know. It's I hope he's able to make the decisions tough, but I have a tough time thinking he's going to be like a mainstay, like with the Oilers throughout the year here. Maybe he is
right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he gets a few games and then gets sent down, but we've seen that in the past where guys do well in the preseason and then get going in the regular season. It's a totally different game. Everything all of a sudden tightens right up, and there's a lot less space to do things. So, I mean, fingers crossed he can keep this thing going and get going and become an Oiler full time. But that's a tough top 6 to crack, and even third line minutes. Do you really want him not playing a ton? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens. I mean, if Puljujarvi gets traded, and you know, if I could see him going lights out and then them trading him, having his stock so high, and then maybe putting Holloway in there. Maybe that's what they're trying to do.
Imagine, look, just quickly on the Puljujarvi thing, like some people would be mad if they traded him now. Imagine if he starts really well and then they trade him. People are going to lose their shit. That'd be a death sentence. Cass, I got a question here from Zwack23, who's watching on the live stream here. He says, "What on earth is behind Cass? Did he miss garbage day? What do you got saran wrap back there, Cass? What is that?
That's
Shrink wrap?
No, it's an IKEA bookshelf. But you know, since
Oh.
I'm still in construction mode here,
Okay.
in the office. So it was because we had the flooding, and so we had to move. Like, we moved all the furniture out into a storage container on the on the driveway.
Yeah.
And so everything was shrink wrapped just for bumping, and so you don't nick stuff up. And I just because I haven't finished the closet yet, it's still sitting here. But my wife actually made that same comment.
Yeah.
She was out of town and she came back, and then she was down here in the office because I've slowly been chipping away at stuff and I haven't finished yet. And she just looked at me. She's like, "Have you been doing the podcast with that in the background?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she just rolled her eyes at me and walked away.
That's a solid move, Cass. You probably haven't done anything. Just throw that in the back to make it look like you're doing stuff.
Yeah, I'm doing something. I promise.
Yeah, I'm still working on it. We got lots going on.
I'm working
down
on it.
there.
It's in the middle of the room. Yeah.
All right, let's get into our Metro Division preview. We started with the Atlantic Division. You can go track that bad boy down on one of our previous episodes. Would have been last Monday's last episode 254, if you're still looking for that. But yeah, let's get into. So I'll lay out my prediction, and then you guys can rip it apart, and then we'll dive into our most important player, wildcard team, breakout, underrated guys. I'm gonna put the New York Rangers at the top of the division this year. I think the New York Rangers, they just. There's not a lot of weak spots in the New York Rangers lineup. With what they've got between the pipes again, I mean, the fact that they've managed to transition from Lundqvist to Shesterkin is obviously going to go a long way here with not much time in between, but it's definitely going to work. So I'm going to go Rangers at the top, followed by Carolina. Obviously, a few changes there, but I still like the Carolina Hurricanes. Love the way that they're coached. Maybe they need to take a little step back in the regular season, and they can figure it out in the postseason. So Rangers, Hurricanes, Capitals, Penguins, and then the Islanders, Blue Jackets, Devils, and the Philadelphia Flyers, which is going to go over great with Torts if he comes in there as with a last place team. So, from top to bottom, Rangers, Carolina, Washington, Pittsburgh, Islanders, Columbus, New Jersey, Philly. I don't think it's anything too crazy or out there, but Gage, does anything jump off the page for you? Am I missing on anybody there?
I have a tough time. I think the Penguins are a little bit higher up there. Dusty.
Okay.
Just
do you think they could be second? Think they could win it?
I think they could win it. Like,
oh, wow.
If you look at the playoffs last year, I don't think the Rangers get past them if Sid's healthy, right? So they still have that Sidney Crosby factor in Pittsburgh, and they have Malkin again. If they could stay healthy, that series would have been completely different. I think we would have saw Pittsburgh and Tampa for sure. I think the Rangers, they're good. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a few players, even I think on my list, I got one of these players doing quite well this year. But if for me, I think the Penguins are way up there. They're re-sign those guys. They're recommitted. They want one last go at this thing.
Cass, what about you? Anybody way off there?
Not way off. I'd have the Hurricanes finishing in front of the Rangers. I'll talk a little bit about Washington. They're my wild card team when we get to it.
Well, you know what? I was going to say, let's transition before we get to the players. Let's get into our wild card teams in this division. So that's perfect timing, Cass.
So
you got Washington labeled as the wild card, eh?
I got Washington. To me, I'm looking at them, and I know Ovechkin seems ageless, and I hope he scores 50. That would be unreal. How awesome would that be? So I'm rooting for him. I want him to break the goals record. I want to see him put a ton of goals in. I am concerned, and this is why they're my wild card team, that the age of the Washington Capitals is finally going to catch up with them. And I think next year is a year it hits the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I think we're already starting to see that with the injuries where, those are the two teams to me that have the potential for a drop off this year. But I think we see the biggest drop off in Washington. So to me, they're the wild card team. If they stay perfectly healthy, they could be decent, be a decent team. But I'm thinking that this could be the year we see Washington suck it, like where they just start to struggle and injuries catch up with them and age catches up with them, and they just aren't as good as they used to be.
Gage, before we get to your wild card team, just quickly, quick cool bet plug. You mentioned Alexander Ovechkin. Hope he scores 50. His goal total right now over at Cool Bet, they've got a bunch of their futures up. We'll obviously get Jake or Patty on to talk about maybe diving into the futures on Thursday now that so many of them are up. Alexander Ovechkin's total right now is set at 45.5 goals. Cass, would you take the over or the under on 45? I'm still going over. It's disrespectful to even hesitate, Matt Cassian. My goodness. I mean, if he gets hurt.
That's the thing. Is like you haven't seen him have any kind of injury trouble. Yeah, I get more concerned about, let's call them age injuries, where it's just the wear and tear from playing a lot of minutes for as long as he has, like that starts to catch up with him a little bit.
Scored
every
50
year it
last
seems
year.
Like I know.
What a freak. What a freak.
Guys, did you not see him?
I would just stay away from that. That's what I just wouldn't bet on that one at all.
The guy just scores. Did you not see him go play in a professional football game and
in the soccer blow
past the guy, first of all, like blew past him with the
as
ball.
a giant.
As a massive beast of a man, and then put it in from his spot in that game. Like it's ridiculous. You bet the over.
Yeah, I think I'd be on the over too. But you can find that and a bunch of other player props already locked and loaded. Just go to coolbet.com, click on NHL, and you'll see the scoring props there. Gager, who's your wildcard team in the Metro, buddy?
You know, I went with the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Okay.
I think what fascinates me is the combination of Laine and Johnny Hockey, and you're going to get regular season Johnny Gaudreau. That's a potent combination, those two. That power play is going to be something with like Gaudreau's never really played with a pure goal scorer like this. So looking for him to be dancing in and Laine tickling the rafters with that bomb. I'd like to see, I haven't looked, but I'd like to see what Coolbet has for Laine to what he's going to finish at this year. Werenski, I like. I do like their goaltending. They've got some really good pieces there. I think that they might sneak up on a few teams this year and battle for those. I don't think they'll be as low as people think they're going to be. They're with that Laine Gaudreau combination, that's going to be fun to watch.
They got Patrick Laine at 33.5 goals. I got the whole thing sitting right in front of me. So 33.5. I like the over. If he clicks with Johnny Gaudreau, Patrick Laine is scoring 34 goals at least. So yeah, let's hammer that over at 33.5. Maybe move that line a little bit. All right, let's get to the player conversation in the Metro. Cass, most important player in this division this season. Who do you like?
I was torn between two guys in the New York Rangers. I think for them to have success. Okay. I'm gonna take the less obvious one here, and I'm gonna go with a little bit of a homer pick. I think
we know where you're going. Your boy,
Mika Zibanejad. I think. Well, to me, he's one of the more underrated guys because you have Panarin. He's not celebrated as being an all-star sort of player, but he is so important to the depth of that team, and I think so important to their success. Like to me, he's an integral part, and for the team to have success, I think he needs to have success as a player. So for me, I think he's the most important player to a team in the division. Shesterkin would be number two. Those are the guys I kind of waffled back and forth between the two of them because they're both really important. I think for that organization and for that team, but the homer and me won it out. So I went with my boy DJ Zbad.
Gager, where are you going? Most important.
I don't disagree with Cass, but I thought the most important player, just because of the entire situation and where the team did, how they did last year and how everything's going, I felt that Matthew Barzal should be one of the most important players in this division. It's his last year. He's an RFA next year, right? So very important year from statistic wise, I think, to put up some good numbers and be the leader that he should be. And just looking at the season that the Islanders had last year, I mean, that was a complete disappointment. I think a lot had to do with that start too, just having whatever it was. The first 12 games were all on the road while their building was still under construction. I think really hurt them. But I'd look to them. They've always been a classic kind of together team, like all pulling on the same chain, as so to speak. Like they're a really good team, and I just think that for them to have success and for Barzal to really establish himself as a premier player in the league, I'd look to them to hopefully get back to the playoffs. But I think he's got to bring his game to even another level to help them for sure.
All right, what about the most underrated players? Cass, I know you're going to say Mika Zibanejad. We get it. It's totally okay.
No.
Oh, no, you got somebody else? Who else you got?
No, I was going to go right back to Barzal as being the most underrated player, I think. And I know it's not like he's an unknown underrated.
Our franchise 32, right? Didn't he sneak in?
Yeah,
he snuck into the franchise.
He snuck in, but he's really, really good. He's a really, really good player. So I would have him. I would have him up there. And I think part of that, just the organization that he plays for and the challenges that they've had, let's say the last number of years, and the lack of success maybe had him a little bit underbilled, and but yeah, I think Barzal still for me with the totality of his game, playing in both ends of the ice and his ability, I think has him there. So I have him as the most underrated.
Gager, who are you going with?
I went with Zibanejad as most underrated. I did. I really like him as a player. I think that whole line with Kreider and Panarin, that's lightning in a bottle with those. They really feed off well. Seeing Kreider score 50, like, come on. But I just think that with the skill set of the other two, Zibanejad just has something different that, man, he's got the shot. He can pass. He plays like he comes out of the corners with the puck. I was super impressed with him last year in the playoffs. I just think that maybe he flies under the radar a little bit. Not for long though. That line is going to be really dominant. I'd look for them all to have another career year point wise.
All right, as we get to our breakout players to wrap up this division preview, if you guys both have the same guy for your breakout players, I'm going to lose my mind. You might. You might. You know what? Let's do it. I'll count to 3. You guys say your player, and then we'll break them down if they're different. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Seth Jarvis.
Okay, different. Okay, different. Gager, in fact, it merged together. I could barely tell what either of you said, but Gager, I do believe you said Capo Caco.
Yeah.
And Cass, who did you say?
Seth Jarvis.
Oh, okay. I like both. Let's start with Seth Jarvis. That's a good one.
Yeah. He young guy, breaks into the NHL.
Just getting going, yeah.
Just getting going, is a guy that could have went back to junior, did not. Wasn't able to play in the AHL, cracks the roster and contributes. Plays in the second power play. Got ran over by Trouba in the playoffs with a pretty good conky there, I think. But
he had 40
really
points
good offensive season
last year.
Played like I said, played in the second unit. Really, really good season. Wasn't like there was lots of talk. There's no talk for him, like no rookie of the year talk or discussion or anything like that. But really, he's a guy that I think possibly could have been in the Calder conversation. And maybe it's because he's Carolina, and so no one really talks about them, and it's not a big market. But to me, he's a guy that's just primed to surpass that 40 points, and he's going to push between 40 or 50 and 60. Is a really a 19, 20-year-old kid. He's got a great career in front of him, this guy, and I see him as having he's not going to fly under the radar this year. Last year, I thought he flew under the radar. This year, I don't think he's going to. To me, he's going to be the breakout player of that division.
Such a good spot to be in there. So many other talented guys with that group, right? It's just
but that can really make it hard to play, though, Dusty.
Well, yeah, but I think there's room for him though to contribute there too, though, right? I don't think he's on the outside looking in.
Yeah, no, which is fair, and that helps. But he had to put himself in that position. And I just the offensive upside for this kid, I think, is massive.
Gager, Capo Caco, ready to come out on him, former number 2 overall pick.
Yeah, it was just the eye test in the playoffs last year, Dusty. I felt that he big body, like he was establishing himself way more than what I'd seen. And granted, it was just a small sample size of watching him play, but I found that him and Lafreniere looked really good playing together. And I mean, that Rangers team, when you really look at it, they're quite a solid team. And just to have, I think he's just played against men for a long time. I think, a few years in the league now, I would look to him to really start establishing himself as a premier player. I loved what he did in the playoffs. He did a lot of things right. I think he's just going to take that to another level this year.
We'll get to the Central Division. Obviously, more Oilers talk on Thursday. We'll get to our Central Division preview. Then we'll get to the Pacific Division preview likely next Monday. Before we wrap up here, a little bit of nerd talk. You guys watch Andor yet? You watch Andor? So did I.
Two episodes in. Really?
You haven't watched the third one yet?
Dude, the third one's the best one.
Third one's the best one. Yeah, I agree with Cass 100%.
Yeah. Okay. So I still haven't watched She-Hulk. Lord of the Rings is super, super slow to me. Bad script writing. It's disappointing. It's a disappointing show for how excited I was for it. Andor is everything that Star Wars needed. It's not a Force-based show, not about the Jedi, and it's just that the tone of it is different, because Andor is he's such an anti-hero, right? And so you're just watching, like, how does this, he's not a good guy.
He's kind of a loser.
He's fighting for the team we would call, like, he's fighting for the good guys, but he's not a good guy. So he's a typical anti-hero, and we know how the story ends because of Rogue One, but how did he get to that point, and what made him what he is? And it's just, I don't know, I just love it. I love the tone of it. I love the feel of it. It was really, really good.
It's funny watching a Star Wars show that you kind of know the answer, like you said, Cass. We've seen Rogue One. I haven't even
thought about that though. Yeah, like, we know what's happening, but I haven't been like, this is
I felt anxious watching it just because of the situation that he's in and what's happening. So I'm really excited for the next episode. Yeah,
it's really
you'll really like episode 3, buddy. It'll be good.
It's the best. Right. It's the best one. And how about, you know what I love the most about that is I can't remember his name. I should know this, but like your antagonist, the bad guy, you just hate his guts.
Oh yeah.
Like super idealist, like
a weasel.
Well, that's what I mean. But like it's a type of thing where he's a character where he's believable because it's like he believes that what he is doing is right. And it's just like this smug weaselness to it where it's just, you just can't stand him. But it's like we all know people like that. That's what makes it good. We all know, like, the over idealist, like, to a fault, and you just want to punch that smug mug right in the face. Like, you just which tells me he was cast well. He's done a good job of acting, and again, the script too, like, just the way, it's a well-written show. I really, good bad guy.
Good bad guy.
And you haven't watched She-Hulk yet, so we won't do too much there. She-Hulk started really well. Gager, I want to see it cranked up a notch here over the next few episodes. I think they've been kind of, a lot of those shows will have a little bit of a lull in the middle, and they'll kind of work on some other development and stuff. I feel like that's what's going on here. I'm waiting for a bang over the final 3 episodes.
I would say that this episode was what my son and I refer to as filler, like just a filler episode. But if you watch the very end, and I don't want to give anything away, but my son and I both said the same thing of what they're gearing up for, what we think is going to happen. So I'm really excited to see the next few episodes of She-Hulk, actually, because I think I know.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch the end. Maybe I think I was on the plane or something. Maybe I didn't pick up right at the end. I'm gonna go back and watch the end of that one again.
We'll talk, Dusty.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Text me, Gager. We'll talk She-Hulk. Fire me a text. That'd be great. All right. That's gonna do it for another episode of Two Guys and a Goalie. We'll be back again on Thursday. Then we're dropping 2 episodes per week throughout the entire hockey season. I'm setting the over/under on November 1st when Cass finally gets that thing unwrapped in his basement, and we'll see how that one plays out. Boys, have a good couple days.
Bye.
Later.